Since the 2016 brand split, Monday Night Raw has been the far less superior brand than SmackDown Live. Usually, the show's time length was too big of an issue, along with the very boring writing and dragged out moments. Raw was a complete disaster, and I thought there was never going to be a moment in time where I was going to like it. I thought it was going to simply never recover. However, when WWE decided to make Paul Heyman one of the creative executives for the show, things started to slowly change for the better. The show began to have some cool and interesting moments like Bobby Lashley and Braun Strowman nearly dying from the stage, or even Brock Lesnar beating down Rey Mysterio's child. Perhaps it wasn't until SmackDown officially moved over to Fox when we actually saw a noticeable difference in the quality of Monday Night Raw. It appears that Vince McMahon has his hands full on SmackDown Live because that show has gone down a bad path, demonstrating what Raw used to look like. He also has the XFL, so he's probably not even thinking about Raw too much. It's very possible that Heyman has more influence now and did the unthinkable, which is saving Monday Night Raw. Paul turned one of the worst wrestling shows ever to exist to a much more enjoyable product. I'm not saying it's the best product, but I am saying it did get much better. In today's video, I want to talk about certain aspects of the show that has improved and why I think it's the best wrestling show out of the three brands from WWE. Sorry NXT, but ever since moving to 2 hours, it just seems like it's just not as good as the 1 hour show it used to be on the WWE network. But anyways, this is about Raw, so let's start talking about it.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman.
One of the biggest difference nowadays is the fact that there is continuity, and things that happened from weeks or months ago lead to a storyline in the future. Let's take a look at some examples. For instance, the first one is the entire Buddy Murphy storyline. After losing to Aleister Black a total of 3 times, he was in complete disbelief and literally did not leave ringside for the rest of the Raw show. There was literally 1 more hour left. And later in that evening, Seth Rollins and the Authors of Pain had a match against the Big Show, yes, he's back, Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe. After looking desperate, Rollins begged Buddy Murphy to help him win the match. Therefore, Murphy helped Rollins win the match and then later joined the group. 1 week later, Murphy and Rollins became the tag team champions as a way to reward Buddy Murphy for joining the group and helping. Another perfect example is the face turn from Samoa Joe. When getting brutally attacked from the Authors of Pain, he turned face and joined forces with another man who has been viciously attacked from this group of monsters, who is Kevin Owens. Finally, the last example I want to bring up is the entire Rey Mysterio and Brock Lesnar feud. They literally built up that feud for 3 entire months, and it led to a great payoff during their match at Survivor Series. Although Lesnar did win the match, people were hyped for the entire time. Ultimately, it looks like things are adding up, and it's lovely to see this because continuity is very simple but adds a ton of believability to the product. It also makes every moment feel special and important rather than having something that makes no sense and never leads to anything in the future. When you're watching, you feel like you need to watch, and it's more important because something is going to happen later on. It's been something that has been missing over the last decade, and it is nice to see in 2020.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman.
One of SmackDown's competitive advantages in 2016 was the fact that they were able to build brand new superstars. This seems to be a trend that is now happening on the Red brand. There are so many young wrestlers that are benefiting from the great storytelling under Paul Heyman. And this list includes Andrade, who is currently the United States champion and getting great screen time. Before joining Raw, he was really not doing anything, so it's great to see that. Then you have Bobby Lashley, Pllana, Liv Morgan, and Rusev, who are really over with the crowd with their storyline. Before this, they weren't really doing anything either. Even if you don't like the storyline, you cannot deny the fact that it is helping their careers. Buddy Murphy and the Authors of Pain are finally becoming superstars since working with the Monday Night Messiah, also known as Seth Rollins, which, by the way, I love that entire Seth Rollins gimmick. Aleister Black is another name who has been racking up a ton of victories and is slowly making his way to the top of the brand. Eric Rowan has some sort of interesting storyline going on with some cage and something under it with a blanket covering it. No one really knows what's happening, and it's not really that amazing, but I'm really curious. What is it? What's inside the cage? And most recently, you have Drew McIntyre, who is in line for the biggest push of his career when he takes on Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 36. If McIntyre defeats Brock Lesnar, he will become a superstar, and the fans are definitely behind him and want to see him win. I could see him as a great babyface of Raw. As you can see, Heyman has been doing a phenomenal job with making the fans care about these new wrestlers who really didn't have anything going for them beforehand.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman.
While SmackDown continues to give viewers these same exact storylines every single week with Roman Reigns, Baron Corbin, and some sort of dog food, Raw is producing compelling storylines that move forward. On Raw, there is a great variety of stories that are interesting. This includes the partnership between Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe. Surely, this is going to either lead to a tag team title run or a match between the two, and I can't wait to see what happens. Then you have Liv Morgan and Pllana, which is going to turn Liv into a star after she's done with the story. Or maybe Pllana and Liv actually get back together, assuming they once were lovers. I don't know. I want to see what happens though. Then you have Seth Rollins. Is he going to continue to dominate Raw and add more people to his cult? As stated earlier, what in the world is in Rowan's cage? My prediction is that it's a baby of some sort. If that's the case, why does he have a baby? Okay, it's definitely not a baby, but imagine if it was. Is Drew McIntyre going to bring home the WWE Championship? Even with Drew McIntyre's story, they're going a different route. Rather than having him bash Lesnar for being a part-timer, Drew is embracing and respecting the fact that Lesnar is utilizing his contract. It is such smart writing. And then you had the entire Becky Lynch and Asuka story, which made so much sense with the people backstage not wanting to make their greatest asset look like a loser. And even more recently, Randy Orton and Edge are now in a new feud, and their segment on Raw was an emotional roller coaster. It is incredible how different and fresh each storyline feels. It literally feels like 2003 SmackDown all over again. I can sense this is a byproduct from Paul Heyman. It just has his vibe.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman.
How did Paul Heyman manage to steal all the great picks at the draft in 2019? I think this Raw roster right now is much more superior than SmackDown. Raw has Brock Lesnar, Becky Lynch, Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, Samoa Joe, Aleister Black, Drew McIntyre, Randy Orton, AJ Styles, Buddy Murphy, Edge, Charlotte Flair, Andrade, Rey Mysterio, Ricochet, Rusev, R-Truth, Bobby Lashley, Liv Morgan, and the list goes on and on. This is literally one of the best rosters assembled, at least in my opinion. Another thing that it could be is that Heyman is doing such a great job at using these talents that they feel much more important. I don't know which one it is, but then again, if you look at both rosters on a piece of paper, the Raw roster definitely has a much bigger feel behind it than SmackDown. I know Raw is 3 hours longer and they get more draft picks, but damn, this just was not fair for SmackDown. Raw deadass robbed SmackDown, and I feel kind of bad for them.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman.
The final thing I want to discuss about Raw is the hot angles that they have been delivering that has been generating a lot of buzz around social media, including Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. For instance, the Randy Orton and Edge segment, where Randy Orton literally nearly killed Edge, has been the biggest thing talked about in professional wrestling this past week. The hot angles do not stop there. Lana's wedding has been criticized from hardcore wrestling fans, but it has been doing amazing numbers on YouTube, gaining millions of views. Another example is Brock Lesnar killing Rey Mysterio's son Dominic on Raw. That video has 16 million views and got a lot of people talking about the product, and now people kind of want to see Dominic versus Brock Lesnar. Imagine that match. Obviously Brock Lesnar would not lose, but that would definitely make Dominic feel much more important and create a superstar out of him out of such a young age. Then you have the Braun Strowman and Bobby Lashley video destroying the stage, which got 5 million views on YouTube. Liv Morgan returning to television generated 5 million views as well. It seems that Paul Heyman understands the consumer behavior of the wrestling fans. He is then creating these moments that will get a lot of people talking, and it is working. Those are pretty much all the reasons why I think Raw has been much more enjoyable as of late than SmackDown. And ever since becoming an executive, it's been very clear that Paul Heyman's influence has been improving Raw, and I think there is a bright future for the brand on Monday nights. The only real issue with Raw is that it's 3 hours long. Heyman clearly has to write a longer wrestling show, and that leads to some boring and dragged out moments or matches, but there is literally nothing he can do about that. The most important thing to notice is that Raw is substantially better than SmackDown right now. More people are enjoying it, and I am even a fan of Raw. To anyone who's been consuming my content for the last 3 years knows that I am one of the biggest Raw haters, so it's crazy how the tables have turned. Raw also continues to get better each and every single week, especially now that they included Tom Phillips and Byron Saxton back on commentary, which is just going to make the product even better. As you can see, Paul Heyman has successfully saved Raw from their ultimate demise. Good job, Paul. And that is it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at Pllana, and I'll see you all on the next video.